Hello, hello, hello. And hello to my friends at Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Parks Casino Shippensburg celebrating their second anniversary. Time flies. I can remember when I first started discussing Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Central Pennsylvania is what I'm talking about. They've got 100% smoke free casino space everywhere. Less than an hour from Harrisburg, the state capital, 500 state of the art slot machines, 48 live dealer electronic table games featuring blackjack and roulette, and a heck of a lot more. Plus, a great daily happy hour and award winning Liberty Bar and Grill with a wide variety of favorite comfort foods. Tomorrow night, every Friday night, is comedy night. Go see some live comedy. Get out and mingle. It's everything I was talking about, getting out, being among people, watching some live entertainment, even if it's the sort of thing that you could watch at home on television or on your smartphone. Comedian Mark Riccadonna. Mark Riccadonna is the Canadian headliner tomorrow night, and friends from the USO World headlines tonight. Live music every Saturday night in the Side Pocket Room. Plus, you can wager and watch all your favorite sports at the Bet Parks kiosks in the Side Pocket and enjoy the Side Pocket Stadium menu all week long. So, Hagerstown, Maryland, I'm looking at you. Winchester, Virginia, Chambersburg, PA, Martinsburg, West Virginia, and many more. Get in on all the action. Parks Casino Shippensburg off Interstate 81. Visit parkscasino.com. Got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So I want to begin with the Tuesday poll result. Oftentimes I'll go back just one day, but I want to go back 2 days and look at the Tuesday result, which was this question. Would Elon Musk's ownership influence your decision, for better or worse, to purchase a Tesla? We had 41,081 votes cast on Tuesday, and it ran 80-20. And 80% said yes, his ownership would influence my decision. And again, I expressly said for better or worse, but my hunch, just knowing the nature of our poll results, my hunch is that overwhelmingly those were people who were saying, and I wouldn't buy that car because of him. I mean, maybe some at the time they were voting on Tuesday said otherwise. It caused me on Tuesday to raise the question, will the fact that President Trump turned, the South Lawn into an automobile showroom, cause Republicans now to be the car buyers for Tesla? And lo and behold, Sean Hannity has now tweeted, as promised, I just ordered my new self-driving Tesla, 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.0 seconds. And apparently he's giving one away as well. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen to the company because their stock has been hemorrhaging. Tesla's stock has lost $800 billion in market cap, billion with a B, since December. And what's interesting to me, and I can't fully explain this, is that their sales are down globally. Like, I understand domestically if you said to me that the sales are down in California, and oh, by the way, they are. But they're also down 71% in Germany, 45% in Norway, 44% in France, 44% in Spain. I don't think that that's because he and Donald Trump are so closely associated and involved in, Doge activities. It might be some of that, but it says to me that it's probably a competition issue as well, that Tesla had the playing surface to itself for so long. That's no longer the case. And how will they do? Musk said yesterday it might be that 2025 is the most important year for the company in its history. From Axios, President Trump's public intervention on behalf of Tesla marks the most extraordinary chapter yet in the partisan war over America's preeminent electric vehicle brand. Musk's assault on the federal government has supercharged Tesla's evolution from liberal status symbol to pride of MAGA protectorate. I'm not sure if that's going to end up being the case. As I said yesterday, there's a charger issue, for people out here, meaning in rural America. My fingers are crossed that the politics surrounding Tesla, because of what I just said, will finally make charging stations available all across the country. One thing I know for sure is that I think it's abhorrent, the stories that I'm reading about the crime spree that some are engaged in against Tesla dealerships, chargers, individual vehicle owners. I mean, I have like a crime blotter in front of me. Tesla's charged in Seattle on Sunday night, where crews had to extinguish a fire involving 4 electric vehicles, or a Tesla charging station in South Carolina targeted on Friday with an unknown individual spray painting an expletive directed at President Trump, along with "Long Live Ukraine." Or 7 charging stations sustaining heavy fire related damage in Massachusetts. I could go on and on and on. So that was the Tuesday result. The yesterday poll result at Smerconish.com, 36,443. If Ukraine and Russia make peace, does President Trump deserve the credit? How about this result? 50.8 to 49.2. It hardly matters which side was which. If you're curious, it was the yes votes that won out in the event. In the end, if Ukraine and Russia make peace, does Trump deserve credit? 50.8% say that he does. It's not going to be so easy. I mean, just because they had the meeting in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia 2 days ago, and Ukraine agreed with the U.S. position and said that they're supportive of a ceasefire, a total ceasefire now with Russia, doesn't mean this is a done deal, because Russian forces are still trying to gobble up as much land as they possibly can in what I've described as this game of musical chairs. At some point, it has to end, and some are going to get a seat and some aren't. Somebody's going to have land and somebody isn't. So Russia is making advances in Kursk, and they're putting forth a list of demands to the United States that still include a commitment that Ukraine officially drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw its troops from the entirety of 4 Ukrainian regions. How that gets resolved, I don't know. The pressure is now on Putin. So that's yesterday's poll question. I knew yesterday, when in the first hour of the program, Greg Lukianoff was my guest from FIRE, I knew that I wanted to have a poll question inspired by Mohammad Khalil, the Columbia student, now graduate, who is in the process of being, perhaps, judge said otherwise yesterday, but deported by the Trump administration. I knew that I wanted this to be my focus. I wasn't sure exactly how I would word it. And I want to say something up front, which is that in the end, I worded it in the abstract. Yes, it's kind of like when you go to a movie theater and on the screen they say, this story was inspired by real events. Well, today's poll question was inspired by real events, but I'm not wording it literally to his fact pattern. And the reason why is I still don't know the fact pattern. Even though they had a hearing yesterday, I'm no more clear on the facts of what exactly this guy did at Columbia than I was yesterday. The information has just not been forthcoming. Mohammad Khalil is a prominent figure, BBC reporting, a prominent figure during the Gaza war protests at Columbia in the spring of 2024, has drawn global attention after the Trump administration arrested and moved to deport him. This case raising questions about free speech on college campuses. I mean, on one side, you've got President Trump and those around him alleging that he is one of many pro-Palestinian activists who support Hamas, which is a group, this is important, that's been designated as a terror organization. The president argues that these protesters ought to be deported. He says Khalil's arrest is the first of many to come. Meanwhile, the lawyers for the 30-year-old, they say, wait a minute, he's exercising free speech rights to demonstrate in support of Palestinians who are in Gaza and against U.S. support of Israel. And they say that this is a blatant violation of the First Amendment, which is all why I worded the question as follows. Should public support for Hamas be grounds for revoking the green card of a legal resident? And what's the authority that they're using here for the revocation of his green card? As I mentioned yesterday, it comes down to Senator Marco Rubio. The Trump administration has not publicly laid out the legal authority for the arrest, but according to those who've been quoted anonymously in the media, they say that it's all the reliance by Secretary Rubio on a provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 that gives him pretty broad, pretty sweeping authority to expel foreigners. The provision says that any alien whose presence or activities in the United States that the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. Until this case, I was never aware of that authority. I wonder about the constitutionality of it. So this is not a black and white case in terms of how might that be applied. The Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. And Trump has repeatedly said that, this is going to be the first of many who will face this type of punishment. Interesting to see the reaction to this. Some strange bedfellows. The Wall Street Journal, a kind of a wait and see approach, much like me relative to Khalil. We need to know the specific facts of this individual case. The Wall Street Journal lead editorial: the Trump administration's decision to revoke the green card immigration status of anti-Israel activist Mohammed Khalil is becoming a cause celeb for better or maybe for worse. Khalil may deserve deportation, but he also deserves due process. And revoking green cards as a policy would have costs beyond any individual's fate. Now, the Journal lead editorial points out something really important, and it's this: a green card comes with legal obligations, including the disavowal of terror. It is 8 USC section 1182. An alien is inadmissible if he or she endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terror activity. I said earlier, the U.S. recognizes Hamas as a terror organization. So I'm doing the weave again. I'm doing the weave a lot lately, aren't I? Well, wait for it. Wait for it now. So it seems to me the question is, did Khalil embrace the Palestinians of Gaza, protected speech, or embrace Hamas, embrace a terror organization, in which case under 8 USC 1182, an alien is inadmissible if he or she endorses or espouses terror activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terror activity, or is a representative of a political, social, or other group that endorses or espouses terror activity. I know your eyes are glazing over and your head is spinning, but that's, I think, what's key. Now, that's where the Journal goes. And I think that's probably the right approach, that in this particular case, you need to know the facts. And again, I'm asking in the abstract, should public support for Hamas be grounds for revoking the green card of a legal resident? By our legal standard today, the answer to that is yes. It'll be interesting to see what people who respond say. But from the Washington Post editorial, they say the following: Mohammed Khalil, a green card holder and student activist, was arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Saturday, not for criminal activity, but for things he said. If President Donald Trump gets away with deporting him as he intends, the danger is that more legal immigrants, possibly U.S. citizens as well, will be punished for exercising their First Amendment freedoms. Well, that seems to make sense, but it's at odds with 8 USC 1182. Here's the way that the Washington Post concludes its analysis. Despite the publicity the story has received, the government has been opaque about the details of its case. As I said, I don't know much more about his case today than I did yesterday, despite my efforts in yesterday's court hearing. And while immigration proceedings are not public like civil or criminal cases, the Trump administration plans to use Khalil as a blueprint for future deportations. The public has a right to know what it's planning. If the Secretary of State can deport a legal resident simply because he dislikes his or her views, whose First Amendment rights are next? First they came for fill in the blank. Now you know the background of today's poll question at Smerconish.com. I know it's more complicated than it seems on the surface. Go vote. Should public support for Hamas be grounds for revoking the green card of a legal resident? That is the Thursday poll question. Okay, like and subscribe, and set yourself up, please, for notifications. Thank you. If you've already watched the Mingle movie, if you've yet to watch it, it's hard to avoid. It's in all my social media. It's in the newsletter today. And I tell you with all candor, people who are watching it and commenting are loving it. And they're very appreciative of the message. And it just makes me feel good because I think that it's timely and it's worthy. And I want it to be viewed. It is free and it's worthy. So watch the Mingle movie. Thank you.